Okay, now he's recording.
Kelly
So instead
in
of
Vegas.
actually letting us open up the show, we're mid-rant, and he's saying, like, just, this is the show. Me yelling at you for not giving out the Niners because people would have cried about it.
People cry a lot on Twitter. That was my first X. Used to be called Twitter. That was my first talking point. Do you like write down talking points?
No, I just talk.
So you just wing it all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have a list right now. I have a list of K-State donors I need to reach out to. So I have way bigger fish to fry than this show and talking points. This is just like hangout hour with John Murray, see how he's doing, bitch about the NFL, ask some mailbag questions. That's the show.
Well, see, I got talking points, and my first one is Kelly is crying on X, formerly Twitter, now X, about Kansas State basketball, and you're getting people all fired up. What is that about?
Okay, so there are certain things that have been brought to my attention, and I decided to go public with it because I think it's important that K-State's fan base understands the severity of any type of overreach. John Murray, on this show, we make fun of government overreach and have for the last 3 years. Well, this is no different.
I don't recall doing that. I've never said anything negative about the government officially. I think they're tremendous, and they're really looking out for the people like myself.
Yeah, they're looking out for the common good. My ass. They are power hungry, absolute and utter losers. That's what they are, and I am sick of
Kelly said that. That's Kelly that said that. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Well, but you never even answered the question. What did Kansas State? What is going on? Why should I care?
So you probably don't care as a West Virginia fan, just like the losers from KU who don't care. Like they're like, oh, well, he did this, he did that. He did not. If you educate yourself and learn how to read a police report and then be able to go onto a website, which I've done all of this because I like to educate myself prior to putting my opinion out there. Another thing that a lot of people on X don't do. He has now since been awarded a diversion. Let me tell you, as somebody who else has also had a diversion, John Murray, you know how you get one of those? You don't have any priors. You don't, you're a bad person. And they say, hey, guess what? You made a mistake. Naquan Tomlin made a mistake. He should not have been in Aggieville at 2:00 in the morning. He was involved in a bar fight, and under which, from my understanding, his girlfriend either tried to break up or something like that. There were punches thrown, as in any bar fight, and there were no charges pressed by either of the three parties. Now, Riley County Police Department, from my understanding, still took him in and arrested him. But the judge has since granted him a diversion. That was on the 16th of November. So for the last 3.5 weeks, the coaching staff, the athletic director, have had the opportunity to sit down with him and say, okay, because we always talk about family at K-State and protecting the family, here's what you have to do. You have to prove to us all of these things. Well, I finally started asking, why isn't Naquan playing, right? He's not underneath any legal trouble. Mm-hmm. From everything that I understand, the athletic director has been very vague. The head coach has been very vague, right? So Jerome Tang said in November, hey, we're treating this as a season-ending injury. And then everything started to come to light about what actually happened. Then everybody saw the tape, what actually happened at the bar. Then, again, the diversion came into play. From my understanding, the coaching staff and the athletic department thinks that Naquan Tomlin should be playing. But the university president, who has no business in the athletic dealings, is saying no. I don't understand why he's gatekeeping.
Doesn't the AD report to the university president?
I'm going to go ahead and guess that's why. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know much about the story. I just know I saw this thing on X, and it was the 100 biggest college football personalities, and you were like number 30 or something.
31.
And you were like the main person for Kansas State. So my question is, do you feel like you're obligated as like the most famous Kansas State fan? Do you feel like you have an obligation to go on this crusade of yours, or are you really pissed off? Or
No,
you
I'm
still
really
need to
pissed off. Actually,
Okay.
Brett asked me this earlier. He goes, "Why are you so fired up?" I think it's an
Yeah, you're
absolute
fired up.
utter travesty that some 50-year-old short, dorky white man is gatekeeping some
Hey.
22-year-old black kid who's going to go play in the NBA who could easily transfer to another school. I think it is an absolute and utter travesty and abuse of power, if that's really what you want to know. I think it is
How
bullshit.
tall is this guy? You say short.
Naquan?
I mean, what are we talking?
Oh, I don't know. I've never met Richard Linton, and nor do I care to at this point in time.
Okay. I mean, are we talking like Anthony Fauci here?
Yeah,
or are we
that's a
talking
good
just
comparison. We can compare him to Anthony Fauci at this point.
Anthony Fauci is very short.
Yeah,
Anthony
well,
Fauci
guess what? When you're a short man and you have little man syndrome, we've been over this
Yeah.
before. I have little man syndrome
Yeah.
too. The problem is where I have a real issue is that now he is threatening members of the media for coming forward and using their mouthpieces. Well, guess who he cannot threaten?
You?
Bingo.
Okay. All right. Well, so did you want to? I thought you were going to rant and rave about the college football playoff because all the other
I could
shows
care
I'm
less
on,
about the college football
everyone's
playoff.
upset. You don't care.
But I will say that the conspiracy theory going around that Disney, aka ESPN, wanted to leave Florida State out to piss off Ron DeSantis. That's an interesting conspiracy theory. Do I think Florida State not getting in is an absolute and utter travesty? Yes, I do. An undefeated team should have gotten in. Now, do I understand that the committee did not want another blowout potentially? Yes. Do I think that Florida State should have gotten punished for losing their quarterback? Absolutely not. But I tried to say that on X, and Florida State fans just lost their minds, and I told them to stop being so emotional.
Well, we're kind of happy about it because it just makes the college football playoff a lot better. Michigan, Alabama is awesome for business. It's such bullshit for Florida State. Like Florida State, they scheduled LSU. They beat Florida. They won all their games. What the hell else can they do? I don't. It was a weird year. I mean,
There's nothing else they can do. It really is terrible. It is all about money. Whether it was about Florida and trying to stick one to Ron DeSantis, I don't really know. I just thought it was a funny conspiracy to think about. But in reality, it all has to do with money. Texas, Alabama national championship is a far bigger draw, and we all know it.
That'd be huge. The thing I thought was so interesting though, on Sunday morning, everyone's going back and forth, Alabama or Florida State. And what I found interesting about it was Georgia was 12-0. They won the national championship last year and the year before. And they lose one game by a field goal to finish 12-1. And no one is even considering them.
Well, that's because they lost their conference championship. So here's the problem, right? You can't say in one breath, you have to do this and then let people in, which is what they did with TCU last year. Remember, Kansas State beat TCU, even though they were undefeated. They didn't win their conference championship, but they had already beaten Kansas State in the regular season with a third-string quarterback. Now, what we could argue is if Ohio State just made their damn field goals, we wouldn't be having this argument because guess what? Georgia would not have been in the national championship last year.
No, and Ohio State also, you mentioned them, they didn't win their conference last year either. They didn't even make it to their conference championship game last year. So just a weird season, but I do think this, and I said this before the selection show, it's not a college football playoff if you don't have the SEC. You're not really determining. Oh, come on.
John Murray, I would have been perfectly content if the SEC got let out. If they got on the outside looking in, Florida State got in, I would have been perfectly good. I could have slept great at night. Give me a break.
Well, I know that because you hate the SEC, but the SEC don't. Yes, you do. The SEC dominates.
You think I hate everybody? Why do you think that? Why do you think I hate
Texas?
But I don't. I said they deserve to be in. I said if it was down to them or Alabama, they deserve to be in. That was my ex.
You hate Anthony Fauci.
I hate government overreach. I hate people telling me what to do. I hate absolutely egregious things.
Let's talk about the weekend before we go to the college bowl games. We did awesome on Friday. So Washington beats Oregon. We had really sharp money on Washington at +10. Oregon was like as public a side as I've seen all year in college football. Everybody was on Oregon. great game. Washington really dominated the game the whole way. I mean, they probably should have been up by more than 20-10 at halftime. They win the game. We did awesome. Saturday we did really well because Alabama beat Georgia. And Georgia money line was a real popular play. We lost on the Michigan game. Oklahoma State was actually kind of a popular dog. We would have been in trouble if they had won outright. Not so much on the point spread, but Oklahoma State money line was a big play for us here. So we did really well in college football. We did bad in the NFL again. We can't win an afternoon NFL game. We lose every one. We lost on Lions, Dolphins, the Rams, the 49ers, which I thought the 49ers were going to roll the Eagles.
Yeah, but you gave out a different play instead, so that's cool.
But I texted you to bet the 49ers, so what do you care?
And I juiced out because I also bet the stupid Patriots because of you.
Yeah,
I bet teams like the Patriots or the Jets.
Well, they lost by half a point. They lost by half a point, all right? But I noticed you didn't mention that I gave you the Texans, which won. I thought that was strange.
I already was on the Texans first and foremost, so you didn't give me anything. I said, first of all, the Broncos are not that good, and C.J. Stroud carved their asses up again. But I do like the Broncos this week. I'll say that much.
Can we let's say this. I know we were texting about it. You argued back with me, but we would have very likely been on the Steelers in Survivor. Very likely. I know they lost 2, but we already used Jacksonville. We didn't have them available. We would have had the Steelers available. We most likely would have used the Steelers, in my opinion. I don't really see any way around that. The Dolphins were the biggest favorite of the week on Sunday. We'd already used the Dolphins. I don't really see any way around us having been on Pittsburgh on Sunday, and we would have lost.
Yeah. I was just looking at my spreadsheet again. There was a couple of spots, but yeah, we probably would have been on the Steelers.
We probably would have been on the Steelers. Tampa Bay.
So you know what? Now that I look at it again, we would have been on the Jags, and that would have sucked even worse.
No,
both teams lose their quarterback.
Oh
yeah, we did already use the Jags.
Sorry,
you're right.
We would have been on Steelers.
I apologize.
We used Jacksonville. We used the Rams.
That's right.
We would have been on the Steelers. We would have lost. All right. Do you want to go over the bowl games? Have you already decided what you like?
No.
It's kind of early. No.
Okay.
I mean,
how do you? Okay, I want you to see. Somebody made. I retweeted it. I can't find it because it's way down in my tweets at this point in time. So I am going to have to find it again. There was a guy who started a Google sheet of everybody that's transferring. So there's that. I need a Google sheet if somebody wants to make it of everybody that's opting out. And then I need a third person to make a Google sheet to keep up with all these coaching changes before the bowl game, because I want to know. Okay, listen, getting the best of the number is wonderful. Getting the best of the number is a great feeling. You get a nice little, you get one of these. You get a nice little CLV trophy, right? That feels awesome.
You get a little more than that. Yeah.
I think I would much rather have the best of the information.
Well, yeah.
And that is not this I'll call it new era in college football where kids just sit out. We had kids sit out in the NFL before, right? We knew that. We've had coaches leave and they played in the conference championship and then they leave for a head coaching job or a better coordinating job, whatever that looks like, right? And not be in the bowl game. But at a certain point in time, trying to keep up with all of these changes can be exhausting. And so I decided this week, all I'm going to do is really focus on the NFL because I have been trash in the NFL the last few weeks. And I will worry about college football next week, next Monday, Tuesday, because at this point in time, there are so many moving parts that I just don't see a reason to place a wager, right? So I wagered on K-State here in Florida. Hard Rock had a 3.5. I asked you what you thought the line would be. I asked my buddy. I said I thought the line would be like 6. The line came out 3.5, so I bet it. And then guess what it went to? It went to 6. And now guess what it is today? 3. So there I was, thinking I had a great number in my pocket, when in fact I could get a better number now that we don't have an offensive coordinator.
Tough to bet bowl games that are weeks away. You don't know what these teams are going to look like. There's not a lot to say. I mean, we were talking last night with our risk guys about just proceeding with caution, booking these games. And I think it's worse than that to me, though. The biggest thing is I love the bowl season. That was my favorite time of year to bet, was college bowl games when I was a kid. And now the bowl season's been ruined by the transfer portal, by guys that are like not even high draft picks that don't even bother to play. It sucks. You don't even know what you're going to get. How much is Oregon going to care about the Liberty game and the Fiesta Bowl? Probably not much. I don't know how you bet these games. I really don't. I mean, I think Missouri will care a lot. They play in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State, and we saw sharp money on that game already.
Okay, but that's down to 2 now.
Yeah,
It's already like at 6.5.
Yeah.
Absolutely, would I have loved to had a Missouri ticket in pocket, but at 2,
of course.
I mean,
Well,
but
the Ohio
half
State
of Ohio
quarterback-
State's team is gone.
The
Don't
Ohio
they have
State
like 11
quarterback entered the
guys?
transfer portal. So I don't. How do you? This is a tough time as well for us to say, okay, here's the sharp play I saw, because then you're going to be like, well, thanks a lot, asshole. It's already moved by 7 points. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? That's college bowl season. That's why bookmakers have to be cautious outside of the 2 games.
So would you say that you guys, I have not opened the SuperBook app in the last couple of days. Would you say that you have all the bowl games up, but you are taking low limits on the app, taking more over the counter? Like, what's kind of the bookmaking side of things?
Our discussion centered around being a little bit more careful with the big house players, maybe not letting them go all out the way we would on the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl. Because the game that just continues to haunt us was your game against LSU a few years ago.
That's exactly what comes to mind.
We had players that we were moving the price and we were staying ahead of it. Players didn't give a shit. Like, oh, you move the money line to minus 800. All right, I'll bet it for 200,000. They don't care.
No, it really. Even the day of the game when it hit in the 20s, I was like, holy shit! At some point in time, I need to come back on the other side, and I'm very glad I didn't do it. Very glad I didn't do it. In game got as high as like 31, I think, at some point. Because I was sitting there watching the game with Megan as an LSU alum. I felt bad. I mean, they didn't even have a real starting quarterback. And that is going to be the reality for Kansas State in the Pop-Tart Bowl. If Avery Johnson somehow is not available to play, K-State's going to have to go with a kid that played quarterback in high school.
You just got to be careful on our side of the counter. You can treat your sharp guys the same way. Those guys are already slotted into their limits, and you can leave it like that. What I'm talking about is being careful with your big house players, the guys that you do extend big limits to. You got to be a little more cautious with these games, because once this information gets out there, it's like here's your money, you won. The other team's not playing anybody, so you got to be careful. You want to talk about the college football playoff? So Florida State is out, Alabama's in. They play Michigan in the Rose Bowl. We opened at 2.5. We're down to 1.5. 84% of the tickets are on Alabama. So everyone's going to bet Alabama, right? Yeah. So
why wouldn't they?
So you've got 2 outcomes here. Alabama goes off favored because the whole world is going to bet them. Or if you see Michigan go the other way, that means that a very sharp group is on Michigan because the whole world is going to bet on the Crimson Tide. So if you see the market reject that, that means there's really sharp money on Michigan.
So at this point in time, what's the play? Because as Michigan is a dog, I'll be all over Michigan as a dog.
Well, you know me. You don't want to listen to me. I'm a Coach Harbaugh guy. I love Coach. So
is that baked in the line? You guys bake that into the cake, huh? That you're a big Harbaugh fan? Does he get a coach in this game? Do we even know?
Yeah, he's coaching. Michigan's going to win this game. Michigan is going to beat Alabama.
I think so.
But look at the point spread. If you see it move towards Michigan, then you don't even have to ask me. That means the sharp guys are all over Michigan because the whole world is betting Alabama. The second game, the tickets are much more evenly split. I do think the public is going to be on Texas. We opened at 4.5. We saw some sharp guys take 4.5, but that's because they were just price sensitive players. Like other books had 4, we had 4.5. That's a bet. That's how these people think. So I don't know that I'd really call it sharp money on Washington, but I know the public is definitely going to be on Texas because Texas is rolling right now. They're
Yeah,
rolling.
I mean, listen, I've already had people ask me why I haven't wagered on Washington yet. I think Texas is always overvalued. But listen, I will say this. So when Quinn Ewers went down, I did have a nice little stretch there betting against Texas. I think I covered 3 in a row. Now that he's back, this is a much better offense.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the reality here. This is one thing I asked you. And I did cash my under in the Pac-12 championship game, so I was happy, but I was still kicking myself for not taking Washington, right? I asked you on the show, isn't this line a little bit disrespectful?
Mm-hmm.
This line isn't that disrespectful. I made Texas minus 4.5. This seems like the right side. But I was trying to figure out what I had missed.
2 things on that. I know exactly where you're going with this. One, Oregon's power rating was through the roof at the end of the season. They would have probably been favored against Michigan in the Rose Bowl if they had played one another. The other thing is Washington got a little bit more respect. It came down a little bit because of the Oregon win. But I think it was.
But what I'm wondering is, and instead of Texas being grossly overvalued, as they sometimes are because the name says Texas on their jersey, are we now giving a little bit too much respect to Washington?
I don't know about that because the Washington's coach is really good.
Yeah.
He's a really good coach. And the Big 12 was really down this year. Me and you have talked about this. This was not a good season for the Big 12.
I would agree with that.
It was a horrible season for the ACC. And I think that cost Florida
This is
State.
Also true. And I think that definitely hurt Florida State. Absolutely.
Oh, it did hurt Florida State.
I mean, Florida State fans were so mad that Alabama got in after they probably should have lost to Auburn. I'm like, you guys could have lost to Boston College. Like, we can cherry pick games all we want, but the reality is
Florida State should have lost to Clemson, actually. They should have lost that game. But
that's very true, too.
That doesn't matter. Mike Norvell's right. Florida State did everything they could. It's not their fault the ACC sucked this year. And they played 2 SEC teams out of conference and beat them both. But there's nothing else that Florida State can do, so they got screwed. But I'm just saying, on a side note, the ACC was really down this year, and I think the Big 12 was too. So we'll see. That is a cool game. I think the college football playoff is going to be very good for business, but especially that first game. That first game is a doozy, man.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So you don't want to report any sharp bowl games because you're afraid people are going to complain.
I mean, we can. It's not good information. It's like,
why? Because it's already moved too much.
Yeah, it's because so
Mizzou's moved 4 points. What else?
Do you want this? Like all the sharp guys bet Oregon State at plus 11.5, and now it's like 8. Do you want that? I mean, it's just that information.
I do want that. I do want that because I do. Can you please share it?
Okay, they bet Oregon State against Notre Dame. They bet Boise State. They bet Georgia Southern. But all these things are not all of them. Most of these things are because like a quarterback entered the transfer portal, and the point spread has moved a lot.
So can you tell us which number they bet? Then we have the information to do with what we want.
Oregon State plus 11.5. Is that what you want? It's just
Boise
worthless.
State
plus 3.
I don't think it's okay. Listen, I don't think it's worthless, especially when you have people like Kenny White who have each backup quarterback, each backup running back, each backup wide receiver associated with a half a point, 2 points. I want to know what the drop-off is.
If you want to talk about the sharp college bowl plays, I'd like to do it right at the week of the game.
Fine.
What is it going to do to tell the people watching the show, hey, these guys took 11 for a game that's in 4 weeks.
I can't win with you. Go ahead. Let's talk. You want to talk refs? Let's just talk refs. That's what you want to talk anyway.
You know that I'm right. We did see some sharp players on Navy plus 3. That game is Saturday.
That is.
All right, let's do
You know what's
NFL.
funny? I want to hear your opinion on this because I lost my proverbial mind about it. But then I started thinking about it from another perspective. Someone said tease Navy and the under. And I said, I can't tease college football.
You don't. First of all, you don't tease the total.
Correct.
I guess if you were ever going to tease college football, it would be Navy because it would go through 7 and the total is like under 30. So if you were
it's like under 28, John Murray.
So if you were ever going to tease college football, I guess it would be Navy, but you would not tease the total. Don't tease the total. That's dumb.
I'm just saying I don't condone this behavior ever. So completely out of my wheelhouse. I just wanted to ask your professional.
I feel like you've been very emotional on this episode. Is everything okay with you? I mean, you just got a new dog. You should be in a good mood.
I'm in a great mood. She's wonderful. I have no complaints, but also it helps that I'm here all day to let her in and out and make sure she doesn't chew up my couch.
I got some presents coming her way here in the next week.
Yeah, I made the mistake of telling you she didn't like toys. And then her toy that I did order showed up and she's had a great time with it.
Well, it looks like she likes those squeaky toys, the ones with like the squeak, because that's Ellie.
That sounds like a dead animal.
As soon as I give Ellie one of those, she just goes right into it, tears the eyes out, gets to the squeaker, and then it's
over. Yes, correct. So that's what the pit bulls did, Max and Grace, and that's why Coco used to hate them, because she's like, what is wrong with you? Like, she's the type, she would just gnaw on it and it just get it completely soaking wet and disgusting. You throw it. But like, they would rip the guts out of all of her toys and she would just stand there and stare like, why are you the way you are? And now I have another pit bull who is pretty much on board with about doing the same damn thing.
Big addition to the family. I'm happy for you guys. All right, let's go to NFL.
Okay.
The sport. You know what? It's brought a tear to my eye, like a single tear to my eye, to see everybody come around how bad the NFL product is. It's a terrible product right now.
I mean, this show's been saying it for 5 years.
And I love, you know how much I love football, and I grew up with the NFL as my favorite sport by a mile. It is a bad product. Right when I was a kid, it was.
Oh, I never watched. Besides the Broncos, I never watched the NFL as a kid.
It's a bad product right now. It is.
I agree with you.
People admit it. People are starting to see it. Speaking of bad products, the Thursday night game. You're gonna love this. We had a sharp group take New England +6. They play at the Steelers. Just telling you.
I feel like the sharp groups have been taking New England all season long, and you know what they've been doing? They've been getting their asses kicked on New England. This is like the Browns in 2015 all over again. Just like, let's just bet them every single week.
Except
the
Browns coach was Hugh Jackson and the Patriots coach is Bill Belichick. But it is kind of
touche, like John Murray, touche.
So here's one, the local game. The Raiders are off their bye week.
Correct.
But they laid Minnesota -2.5 and moved it to 3. Minnesota is supposed to have Justin Jefferson back this week. I feel like I've been hearing that for a few weeks now. But he's supposed to play this. He's supposed to be on track to play Sunday. Okay, this is one of those where I'll give you 2 where the numbers moved a lot because you like those. Jets +6 against Houston. It's 4 now.
Yeah, because good old Zach Wilson's going to be playing.
And the total in this game shot up. And I think it's because of the performance of the Bengals quarterback on Monday night. This total went from like 41, 41.5, now 44. Just all kinds of sharp groups taking over.
Yeah,
Colts,
way too late.
Colts, Bengals. And then the last one I got for you, keep an eye on the quarterback. Cleveland -2.5 against Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, they said high ankle sprain. That's what I heard. So we'll see what happens there. Disastrous Monday night for the Jaguars. I mean, they were a 10-point favorite in that game. They were on their way to seizing a high seed in the playoffs. They lose to the Bengals, and their quarterback gets hurt. What just a nightmare game for them. Where are you at? Where's your best bet?
My best bet is the Cowboys this week. I have actually a couple of bets that I really like, shockingly. And that's because there's no college football, so I've had a lot more time to spend on the NFL. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the window with all these, but I have to pick 7 for our good friend Matt Human's contest. And so that's a lot of NFL for me.
7 NFL plays?
Well, I normally just mix in like 1 or 2 NFL with all my college.
College and pro.
But because there is no college outside of Army Navy this week,
right?
I'm pretty much either going 6 NFL, 1 college, or 7 NFL, and that's a lot. I really need desperately a 6 in 1 week. I really, really do.
Who's leading that contest? Who's winning that contest?
My buddy Jeff, actually, last I looked, is leading the contest. Mad Fat Russian.
Oh yeah, I've seen his
Our
name.
entry, Kelly in Russia, not doing good. Not doing
No.
good at all.
That
We
would be
decided
me.
to team up this year. And basically, whenever Jeff and I agree, it is bad. So he and his wife were in Vegas last weekend, and we both said our best bets were the Titans. And then he immediately texts Brett and his wife to bet everything they had on the Colts because that's how bad it's been. And you saw the way that game ended. It's not been fun when he and I agree. I'll say that much.
The Dallas game, Dallas hosts Philadelphia Sunday Night Football. We got 69% of the tickets on the Cowboys. So it's so funny how fickle the public is. The Eagles were 10-1. They got crushed by the 49ers on Sunday. Crushed. And now everybody has left the Eagles side. And then the other really good game Sunday.
Yeah, but the public has just been crushing. Every bookmaker I've talked to is just crying in their Wheaties. I'm also crying because it has been really rough this last few weeks.
You can tell that our executives are like, just shut up. Just stop telling me the same thing. It's like, what happened on Sunday? It's like, well,
what had happened was every single favorite but the Broncos.
Yeah, every favorite won again, and you can just see the look on their faces is like, you guys are really going to tell me this line of bullshit again? I mean, we cannot. I don't know that we've won an afternoon game since that one Sunday when Denver beat Kansas City and the Bengals beat the 49ers. Remember that?
That was
crushed it that
5 weeks ago.
It was like 5 or 6 weeks ago. The book absolutely cleaned up that day. It's one of our best days of the year.
Yeah, I think that was the last winning Sunday I had, actually.
Since then, we lose every afternoon game. I mean, we won a lot on the Cardinals beating Pittsburgh on Sunday morning. And we did well on Kansas City losing to Green Bay.
So basically what you're saying is you need the quarterback to get knocked out of these games where the favorite is heavily inundated with public money, and that's the only way you guys can win.
We cannot win an afternoon game. The big game this afternoon, this week, Chiefs-Bills. I think this game's interesting because Buffalo is 6-6. They're probably going to miss the playoffs. Their power rating is so high. They were less than 3 at Philadelphia. And now this week, they're less than 3 at Kansas City.
I think they're a huge teaser play this week.
Higher than these teams. And yet they're probably going to miss the postseason because they've lost some close games.
There's a couple of spots that they can move in the AFC. I mean, if it's the NFC, I would say they're definitely missing the playoffs. But the AFC is pretty weak this year.
But they also play Dallas next week, and they close the show at Miami week 18. They just have a brutal schedule.
Yeah, but Miami doesn't beat anybody of any sustenance. Like, remember what happened when those two played in Buffalo? Yeah.
I do.
Miami got their asses kicked.
They did. We'll see. Miami's offense is pretty explosive. Do you want to do a mailbag question?
Yeah, I got to open it up. I was not prepared to do mailbag because I was over here diligently taking notes. Mm-hmm. That's what I do during the show.
You do. But you don't have any talking points.
Yeah, I don't need talking points. I have notes. I have notes. You know why I have notes? So that I can regurgitate the stuff to all my friends who are too lazy to listen to the damn show.
Yeah, I need a teleprompter because I'm like a politician. I don't have any thoughts. I don't have any opinions. I need somebody else writes it for me and then I just say it.
Yeah, I should do that. I should definitely have people do that for me. Maybe then my tweets wouldn't get read on Kansas radio and the news. My poor aunt is texting me right now. But she actually agrees with this hill I'm willing to die on. So for once, I've not embarrassed my family, at least not yet. At Brett_Miller92 on X says, how does a book handicap these bowl games with all the transfer portal noise, players sitting out for the draft? And at County Vegas, how do you look at these bowl games from a betting perspective? I think we've already addressed this, but let's circle back.
It's just the worst. I mean, the only thing you can really do, I was talking to Ed Salmons about this last night. We had like our fantasy baseball wrap-up party, so we were just bullshitting. He was saying how difficult it is to keep track of the portal, but in his words, he's like, it's just like booking the NBA every day.
Touché.
The NBA players, they don't even bother to play like a third of the time.
And it would be like 20 minutes before kickoff that you find out the starting quarterback isn't going to play. That's how the NBA is.
It's very challenging, but it's something that the NBA has prepared us for. And then, of course, you remember in 2020, the COVID year, which was the most stressful year for bookmakers. And it'd be like, hey guys, Trevor Lawrence has COVID, so he can't play, but he is going to travel to South Bend with the team and stand on the sidelines. But he can't actually participate in the game. It was
or what about the golf tournament where the guy was about to
John
win?
Rahm.
Who was it? John Rahm, yeah.
John
He was
Rahm
about
at
to
the
win, and they're like,
Memorial.
sorry, you're outside with your caddy who's already been exposed, so we're going to have to pull you off this course in case you pass COVID to somebody else who's also outside.
It was the year of science. They didn't lie to us at all. Next question.
At Wise Guy Wager, no politics and money aside, what is your top 4 for the college football championship? Are you okay with the 4 that got in? We kind of already talked about it. Interested to see who you pick. Have a great week. Rescue Dog is a winner at Kelly in Vegas. Have a great show.
Well, I love the dog. The dog is terrific. I'm cheating though. Of course, my pick is Michigan.
No, but who would, if numbers aside, politics aside, money aside, who do you think actually deserve to get in?
The 4 best teams are Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, and Texas.
That's not what I asked.
So
I didn't ask you the 4 best teams were. I said, who do you think deserve to get in?
Fuck. Michigan. I guess you'd have to say Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Florida State.
Thank you. Okay.
But
that's who deserved to get in. But the 4 best teams are who?
Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Texas.
Correct.
And I'll tell you this, for your Texas fans, actually Oregon might be better than a couple. Well, whatever. For your Texas people, this is it. This is it, Texas. You play Washington for a spot in the national championship game, and then you're in the national championship game. Next year, they've got to play in the SEC, and there's going to be a 12-team playoff.
Okay. How many? So they're going to let in 4 SEC teams?
If they want to have the best field, they will.
Okay. At Cyclone Drew on X says, John consistently hammers NFL officiating, and rightfully so, but his favorite football, VAR, is a joke. VAR is a joke, and it's cost his Reds points. Yeah. Is the irony lost on him when he critiques NFL ref ball?
No, it's not. The Liverpool got totally screwed in a game against Tottenham a few weeks ago. It was bullshit. Georgetown got screwed on Saturday. Did you see that?
No.
It was really bad. The guy made a shot with his foot on the line, and the NCAA said they can't review whether or not his foot was on the line. They can only review if the guy got the ball off.
What?
They said if the question was, did he get the shot off in time, they could review it. But because he did get it off, they can't review if his foot was out of bounds or not. It's not reviewable. So they lost. Even though the guy's foot was on the line. Well, they're going to have to change that rule. What if that happened in an NCAA tournament game? Yeah, nobody cares. It's Georgetown TCU, so nobody cares. What if that happened in the Sweet 16?
Yeah, Ishmael Massoud looked wonderful in that game. That was kind of heartbreaking for me, but I digress. Okay. At @the_Dennis_the_menace on IG said, would you try to make some sort of deal if you were still alive in the Survivor contest?
I don't know. It's tough with Kelly, Dennis. It's tough when Kelly's your partner because, if somebody offered us $50,000 to Kelly, that's not much money. So
not when your implied entry is worth $300,000.
No, I'm talking I'm speaking in generalities. You don't what you consider.
The short answer is yes, Dennis. No. Next.
No.
At DCC205 on IG said, not a question, but I was very excited to meet John Murray at the Knights game.
Well, that's really nice. I was at the Knights Blues game Monday. I texted Kelly about it on Tuesday.
About how drunk you were? And your dog was mad at you?
No, you know what it is? It's not even that I was that drunk. It's just that I'm so old now. I can't, the next day, I'm just so tired. I'm just so old. It's just getting old. Next question.
But you weren't excited to meet DCC205 as well? Okay.
Look.
At quad_wah23 on IG said, how many picks will Dax throw to the Eagles' soft secondary as Debo described them? I also would describe them as soft. I would be more concerned about Jalen Hurts throwing picks to the Dallas defense. He has 10 this year. Dax.
Well, you want to talk about bad secondaries? Go back to the Thursday night game. Dallas' secondary got carved up by Geno Smith. So
correct.
We'll see what happens in this game. Quad Wah. I don't know if Is he asking us to give him advice for like a player prop? Is that what's
He
going
asked
on
how
here?
many picks will Dak throw. I said 1.
Okay, that's fair. Go ahead.
Okay, at John R. Chan on IG said, can you talk about bankroll management as a handicapper throughout the season? Well, my bankroll is pretty much decimated after the last 3 weeks. So
So
I should go
no,
back to doing exactly what I said, and that is not betting the NFL outside of my best bet, which has been equally horrific this year. Normally, my best bets just cruise right along, and that's all I want to bet. But I'm glad because if I only bet those, it would be even worse. So
didn't I tell you years ago, just buy Bitcoin and not bet on sports? Didn't I say that?
All right. So anyway,
Bankroll
do you have
management.
any advice for John on his bankroll management?
I will give at John Archan to everyone. It's get 3 to 5 accounts, depending on how much money you have, and just always get to play the best number at each one. Always.
Would you not agree that flat betting is probably the way to do it as opposed to unit size?
Of course.
I would not. I would agree that I think most recreational bettors need to flat bet. So if it's $100, that's your bet size. If it's $500, that's your bet size. If it's $15, that's your bet size. I think that trying to guess. Now, granted, there are games I bet more on, depending on how much I like them. But I would say for the average recreational bettor, if you just flat bet and you don't bet more than 1% of your bankroll on any given outcome, you'll probably be okay.
Got a late entry in the mailbag. It's from a guy
did
on
we?
X at BD_CD11 on X. Who invaded Spain in the 8th century? Who invaded Spain in the 8th century? The answer is Moops. Moops. No? Okay. That's it. You got anything else?
I have not followed European history that often. I think I took a class that was like 1500s to 1700s in college. And it took an entire semester to learn about 200 years, and probably half of it was fake news. So
do you want to go down that rabbit hole with me sometime when there's no cameras? Like I'm now.
Well, you were a history major.
I'm now convinced that like everything we were taught was a lie.
Yeah.
Because everything we're told now is a lie. So how do I know that everything I was taught my whole life isn't a lie?
I had this conversation with Ariel Epstein earlier today. I said, honestly, I don't know what to make sense of anymore. I don't know what is the truth, what is a lie. And that's why I said earlier, the best I can do is to go on a website, like a government website, right? Like I said, and look up and read the police report, read what the court docket says, make my own inferences to the best of my ability on what actually happened. Because unless you were there, you're probably getting lied to. There's two sides of the story, and then there's the truth.
I've got a bulletproof system. Hasn't failed me yet. If the media is telling you that somebody is good, they're bad. And if they're telling you that somebody's bad, they're good. That's all I have.
Done.
Talk next week, kid.
Let's talk next week.
Give the dog a hug for me. Give the dog a hug.
I will.